hopefully this will be our last meeting, but I'm not going to make any promises. I've learned my lesson on that. So appreciate everyone being here. I apologize for us being a little tardy, that we just got off the floor, and I appreciate everyone's patience. Also, thank you for lunch to Brad Smoot and Larry Ann Brown for providing our lunch. Much appreciated on days like today, I can assure you. Committee, unfortunately, I was not able to be here when this bill was first heard. I was in the Medicaid expansion hearing, in that joint hearing. And so upon receiving feedback from the vice chair who ran that meeting, and I appreciate her doing that, and from some members of the committee, I felt like it was not given the time. I know that there were questions that were unanswered from committee members, and so felt it prudent to go ahead and give it the vetting that this bill deserves. So with that, we have been provided some follow-up information on questions that were asked, and I will ask for the committee's will on this bill, as hopefully this will be our last meeting this session. So with that, I will open it up for questions and discussion from the committee. What questions or discussion do we have, committee? Senator Ware.
Is there any chance I could have about 5 minutes to look over this material that, I mean, I didn't really have time to look at so far today?
Certainly, and in the meantime, we'll entertain any other additional questions or comments. Does anyone need a review of the legislation? I know we just heard this last week, but happy to have Charles review. Anybody? No. Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd ask for a clarification on the sales tax exemption. Would you mind going over that, Charles?
Charles, can you go over how the sales tax exemption would work as written in the bill?
Certainly. So there are two places in the bill that address the sales tax exemption. The first is the last section before we amend 3606, which is on page 5. So first of all, just to know that this is a very broad sales tax exemption. It covers data collection, data center equipment, which includes servers, all kinds of other equipment, and that is defined on page 1 of the bill. It also covers electricity, covers services. So it's a very broad sales tax exemption. Secondly, it's, and also construction of the data center. Secondly, the length of the sales tax exemption is dependent on the amount of investment that the qualified firm would make, and you can see that on page 5. The length of time, for example, if it's at least $600 million, which is the minimum investment that's required, $600 million, then it's a 30-year sales tax exemption. 800 million, 40 years, and $1 billion, and it's indefinite. So you can see that on page 5 there, and then if you turn to the last page of the bill, you can see the amendment to the sales tax exemption statute, which is 79-3606, and the text in italics there is the sales tax exemption as placed in that statute. So the sales tax exemption would also cover replacement equipment, things like that. So a broad sales tax exemption for a significant amount of time, depending on the amount of the investment.
Senator Tyson.
Is it state and local?
I believe it's just state.
We need to confirm that, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Can we get confirmation on that, Charles? Do you believe it's just state? Do we know that for sure?
I can check with one of the tax revisers.
Thank you, appreciate it. Senator Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am only partway through the list here, but several states are saying sales tax and use tax. And maybe I've, missed something along the way, but I'm wondering what specifically use tax would apply to.
Charles, do you care to answer that? And if not, we do have some representatives here who might be willing to add additional information, but we'll begin with Charles.
So sales tax and use tax are kind of two sides of the same coin. Use tax is sort of the corollary to sales tax when one purchases something from out of state where Kansas sales tax would not necessarily apply, and it's used inside the state, then there is a use tax that comes into play to cover that. So that's the basic answer.
Senator Dahl, then Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still concerned a little bit about the transmission lines. Do we have enough transmission lines in place right now, or how big is the build out, and how many years is the build out?
I'm going to call on one of the conferees, whoever wants to field that question. Just please introduce yourself when you answer the question. Thank you.
Members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. Bob Johnson with the Polsinelli Law Firm. I appreciate being back before you today. I think I'd answer it the same way as I did last week, which is that really it's project by project. I think you'd have to look at the infrastructure surrounding any particular site as to whether the infrastructure is there today or needs to be improved or built out further. I'd say the positive thing is that there's a lot of infrastructure being built out currently in Kansas, which will allow us to capitalize on this opportunity. And unless we have the sales tax exemption, we won't have the opportunity there to go solve this question. I think in this case where $600 million is the minimum investment, I think you're going to have projects of such significance where they'll be working with Evergy very closely, partner to partner, to get anything built out that needs to get built out.
Can I follow up, please?
Follow up, Senator Dahl.
And I understand, appreciate your answer, but it seems, we're talking about a $600 million project. It would seem to me that there has been studies done about, getting power is pretty important.
Critical.
Of the deals, of the project. So
yes, sir.
There hasn't been like a study done or anything like that as of at this time?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. The other thing I'd add, if I may, is that I view this, and the clients that I've spoken with in the development community and the data center community view the opportunity to keep wind and solar power in the state as a big boon here, an opportunity for Kansas. We export so much of that energy, so that capacity is there from an energy production standpoint that could absolutely be utilized by these facilities.
Just getting it there.
Just getting it there.
Yeah.
Understood.
Thank you.
Yep.
Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You might as well just come back up. Can you answer the question whether you believe that this is both state and local sales tax?
I believe that it's both. Like an industrial revenue bond sales tax exemption, I believe it's both.
I believed it was both too. Second question, is that what Missouri also has local taxes? Have they exempted both the state and local taxes on their projects?
I believe so, but you all have analyzed different states. I'm going to let them answer this question if possible.
If you would just, introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Brad Smoot with Net Choice. I believe that's the answer to the first question that was asked, Missouri, and their statute is listed there. It appears to cover both sales and use taxes. I don't know, it doesn't specifically tell us whether it's state and local. I would be surprised if it isn't both. We can certainly check on that and see what we can find out, but I would assume that it is both for now.
Thank you.
Other questions? Senator Ware.
Thank you. Sorry I have so many questions, but I really would like to understand this before, we jump in.
Senator, no need to apologize. That's the purpose of today.
Okay. So I see that two of our neighbor states are listed here. Oklahoma has permanent sales tax exemption, and I'm wondering if it includes the three things that we are considering, electricity, services, and construction, or if it's just a blanket anything involved there. That's one question.
Let's see if we can get you an answer to that.
Madam Chair, Brad Smoot again with NetChoice. We're texting. We're going to see what we can do to get you an answer to the specific questions. But I certainly am no expert on what's happening in other states and the details of those bills. Some of these states, and they start out with laws that are different than ours, and they can be certainly more complicated than ours. And I don't really have a thorough analysis of every detail. What we did in our chart was try to get to the issue, primarily the timeline for the exemption itself. That's all we have right now, but we'll get it to you as soon as we can.
Cool. And I have another, maybe it's a basic question, maybe it's another one I should have already known, but it's a gap in my brain. So Charles listed electricity, service, and construction sales tax. I'm wondering what services means on the ground. What services are we talking about?
Charles, can you further define, or if not, we'll call on a conferee.
Yeah, you can call in the conferee, but basically the bill exempts, services that would be provided to the equipment, to the servers, to the refrigeration equipment that keeps them cool, to the all the other equipment that is necessary for a data center.
Any additional information from conferees, or did that cover it? Nope, that covered the services. Okay. Additional questions? Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I want to understand, if this were to become law, other sales tax, other credits, other programs, incentives would be available to these companies. Is that correct? And in other words, would they be able to stack their incentives?
Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Johnson.
Bob Johnson, again, Senator, appreciate the question. Legally, incentive packages that are available through statute would be possible. In most cases, those are local decisions, and they'd be made on a project-by-project basis by the localities. If you're referring to like a property tax exemption, it would be decided upon by the city if it's in a city, or the county if it's entirely within a county.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's programs, employment programs that are available in Kansas. I mean, to use the terminology often used up here, there's many tools in the Commerce's toolbox that could get you guys to zero taxes. And I just, I see these projects come in and they say, oh, it's a benefit to help grow our communities. And I never see a benefit for the people and the businesses that have been here for years. They never benefit from it. You're off the tax rolls for 10 years, and then you threaten to leave after 10 years. Not you. Other businesses have done that in Kansas, and they've left. I mean, a prime example was Amazon down in Coffeyville. And they walk away as soon as their benefits leave. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So did you get like a 10-year abatement or TIF for the ground? Or how long is that TIF?
Sure. I think I understand the question. So statutorily, with regard to property tax exemptions available, the two main categories are TIF or property tax exemption, right? So 10 years is the maximum property tax exemption in Kansas. either, there's two ways to do that, the constitutional abatement or through a industrial revenue bond issuance. And TIF could be up to 20 years against all the discretion of the locality.
So if you just picked up and left after the 10 years, your company, unless you sold it, would still be responsible for the property tax on that project.
Correct. Any property owner would be responsible.
Right now, it's ag property, right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, without approval of locality, that property tax begins to flow as soon as that's development's on the books.
So probably within 5 years, at least, at the most, that would cover the property tax that the TIF did in the 10, wouldn't it? I mean, we did these numbers back in Garden City when we brought this thing in, and we had somebody figure it out, and it was land, and we figured in 5 years that would cover the costs that we were giving away in the TIF by how much property tax that would add to the project. So
I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I think I understand. That was a great question, Senator. They're all great questions, of course. I understand what you're saying. Hard to answer in a vacuum, I'd say. But yes, it's always kind of that cost-benefit analysis that needs to be pursued by the locality to determine whether the investment of a property tax exemption or a TIF incentive is worthwhile. Land acquisition through TIF is one of those utilizations of TIF, as you're referring to. And yes, I mean, that's what localities use, is this but for present? But for this incentive, are we going to get the return we want? And so I think hard to answer in a vacuum without specific projects in front of you, but absolutely that's the methodology that is used by localities in making the decision on a property tax exemption.
it's not only you get your return you want, the city or the county gets the
Correct.
return that they want.
That's what I'm saying,
So
yes.
that's where I was going with
Yes, sir.
Before we go into additional questions, I believe the reviser has some information on sales and local tax.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So I checked with our tax revisor, and an exemption under 793606 covers both state and local taxes.
And Senators, if I may, Senator Schallenberger, Missouri is state and local as well. We confirmed that also.
Thank you for that information. Senator Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm seeing that Missouri says up to 25 years, but only electricity and construction materials, so not services. So that's less than what we're considering. And Oklahoma is permanent sales tax on, I'm not sure what, but permanent. So that's closer to what we're talking about. And I think that since we're talking a lot about competition with other states, and I would think in particular our neighboring states, that brings up a question in my mind. I understand that it needs to be longish term, at least longish, because there are ongoing expenses for this. I'm wondering how long it takes to get the project planned, the deal made, the construction done and up and running. How much time out of say Missouri's 25 years is that?
Looks like Mr. Johnson drew the short straw again. There you go.
Senator, thanks for the question. I think I can answer, I don't know in comparison to Missouri, I can answer the question about the lead time on a project. I think it typically would take, 6 to 12 months to plan a project and then another 18 months to build it out. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that sounds ambitious, but okay. I would have expected a few years, but okay. That's just to have a sense of time frame. I'm not entirely comfortable with permanent, but I know it needs to be lengthy to be viable. So let me cogitate a little bit more.
May I offer one additional
Mr. Johnson.
feedback point on that? So certainly understand the competition piece of that. That is a critical part. The other critical component to the length of the exemption is the necessity of the equipment, the advancement of technology. I know you know this, but just to point it out, the advancement of technology happens so rapidly, and this equipment is heavily used, and so it burns out, frankly. And so it's constantly reinvested in over the years, and it's tens of millions of dollars over the decades, and that's the purpose for needing, a longer time period. Thank you.
And I believe that our revisor has some additional information that may help.
Senator, since you were discussing the timing of getting things going, the construction, the data center, I just wanted to point out that in the bill on page 3, there is a provision that the qualified firm has to commit to begin construction of the project within 10 years of the date of the agreement. So there is that.
Thank you. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I apologize to the chair and committee for getting in late. So I would like for us to back up to the beginning of the meeting. No, I'm kidding. I thought I knew the answer, Madam Chairman. And so the reason I said that is I apologize if this question has been asked. And I don't know if Mr. Johnson is with Net Choice or not, but is there a representative from Net Choice? Mr. Smith?
Yes, Mr. Smoot.
Congratulations, you get the answer to the question. I see when it talks about on the back of the sheet that was laying in front of me and under questions that apparently Senator Ware had solicited, because I see certain senators' names. I don't see my name on here, but be that as it may. In any event, Net Choice members, this is important to some of us. Net Choice members have goals of being supported by 100% clean and renewable energy. This helps decarbonize the electric sector and advance the state renewable energy goals. Down under Senator Dahl twice, it mentions access to renewables. Net Choice, are they a company that focuses, works hard to comply with ESG?
Net Choice is an association of member companies. I think we listed many of those in our testimony, but I can get you a longer list. It's the Googles and Meta and Amazon and all kinds of other organizations that you've heard of. And they would be the ones making the decisions and handling those issues. I can't speak to ESG at all. I know nothing about their internal policies on that subject. I think the renewable energy provision is one that many states require and are interested in. And to the extent that they subsidize or assist in providing electricity to a particular state, why they can be a valuable asset, like Kansas wind power, since we actually export wind power. But as to ESG, I can't really comment.
So is it possible to get some information, since you represent Net Choice or any of these other potential data centers, as it relates to their thought or focus or lack thereof on ESG?
We can certainly ask.
And by the way, Madam Chairman, for the benefit of the committee, in case anyone is wondering, ESG, that's environmental social governance. And that is something that's starting to be more and more prevalent in the United States. Again, some members that is important, other members not so much, but I think it would be beneficial for us to know as we're considering tax breaks, tax cuts, and other incentive programs for any business such as this is coming in. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Other questions or comments? Senator Schallenberger.
I don't have any, but I would be happy to make a motion to get this thing started to pass it out.
Thank you, Senator.
Doesn't mean I'll vote for it, but I've made a motion.
Okay, we will entertain a motion. And we have a second. Do I see Senator Dahl over there giving up the peace sign? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have a discussion on the motion? Senator Tyson.
Actually, clarification, is he passing it out favorably or unfavorably?
Favorably, I'm sorry.
Favorably.
So I had an amendment, so I don't know how you want to do this, Madam Chairman, a substitute motion?
We'll go ahead and take the amendment. So
So I would strip the contents of the bill and put the contents of Senate Bill 54 in. And what that would do is create a sales tax exemption on utilities for all businesses. And that way, we're not picking and choosing winners and losers. It would help out this group without, again, everybody would have access to the same benefit. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
okay, so the motion is to strip the contents and put Senate Bill 54 in, correct? Okay, do we have a second on this substitute? Second by Senator Pett. Discussion on the motion. Senator Dahl.
Yes, when we say all, could we narrow that down a bit?
Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So currently, agriculture and personal residents do not pay sales tax on utilities, on electricity and other, but commercial businesses do. And this would exempt that sales tax for commercial throughout the state, all businesses. We wouldn't be picking a winner and a loser.
Other questions, comments? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't had a chance to look up Senate Bill 54. Is that all that's in Senate Bill 54?
That is, yes, we passed the bill out of the Senate Tax Committee, and it only has that provision in it.
Thank you.
Other questions, Senator Dahl, then Schallenberger.
Thank you. Well, do you have, Senator, do you have any idea of what the fiscal note on that would be?
Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's approximately $53 million.
Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would assume if the bill has already come out of tax committee that amending this would not be necessary. We already have that bill somewhere in the process, and I think the part of this that deals with the sales tax on the construction and the equipment is equally important, and I hate to lose that. So I'll be opposing the motion.
Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify that this strips everything, right, and replaces it with Senate Bill 54.
Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That is the motion, and I verified that is all that is in 54, but we can clarify the motion and say only the contents that would exempt utility sales tax, if that, okay. And I would clarify the fiscal note. The first year is 51 million, the second year 56.2, third year 56.8, and the 2028 it would be 57.3 million.
Okay. Other questions on the substitute motion? Senator Schallenberger.
Well, I'll just make one more comment. Substitute motion would, my city, for example, is now collecting sales tax on the commercial electric. And they would actually be losing revenue. The provisions of this bill would be losing new revenue. Now, I will admit that it's picking winners and losers. I mean, we've decided that this group doesn't have to pay them and other groups do. But I hate to see the effect that for those cities and counties that are accustomed to receiving that sales tax would be losing.
Senator Tyson.
Thank you. I'm going to clarify. You actually would not be losing local sales tax. If I'm reading this correctly. Senate Bill 54 set the state sales tax rate, and it would be on gas, water, electricity, heat, propane, LP gas, coal, wood, and other fuel sources.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, she's looking for that. I feel that this bill on the data center, Senate Bill 545, is too important to be lost to stripping out its contents and putting in a sales tax exemption on all businesses. Although I don't disagree with that, I mean, the sales tax exemption. I just don't want to lose this bill to that. So I'll probably vote no on that amendment, that substitute bill.
Any other questions? Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't see, as long as the local entities, local governments were still collecting their sales tax, I really don't see a problem with this. You know, I see a big problem with Senator Schallenberger was saying earlier, because that'd be a big hit on local government. So I understand this correctly, the local governments would be collecting the same amount of taxes they are today.
Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If you would allow me the leeway, I will just make sure for clarification on the motion that we only exempt state taxes, if the second would agree.
We have Matthew has some information. Matthew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to confirm that I did have confirmation from one of our tax analysts that Senate Bill 54 does only exempt state sales tax, so local would stay in place.
So that is the clarification then, only state. Other questions, comments on the substitute? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion fails. We are back on the Senator Tyson.
I'll make a motion to include the contents of 54 then, so that the sales tax, so everyone will be exempt.
So we have a motion to pass out, including the contents of 554. You're not.
Pass it out, just, Madam Chair.
Clarify, please.
Thank you.
Senator.
My motion is to include the contents of 54 so that everyone would be exempt. So it's another substitute motion. And then they can make their motion after, as amended by the Senate committee.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, Senator Tyson.
So if I may, Madam Chairman, since we didn't strip the contents, there's provisions in here that people want to keep, members want to keep, absolutely great. And I'm saying, well, at least let's give all businesses that sales tax exemption that these businesses would be enjoying. So you couldn't get the negative, so I'm going for the positive.
Senator Dietrich, then Senator Reddy.
So I'm going to go back to something that Senator Schallenberger said. I don't have my general orders in front of me. Is this languishing below the line, Senate Bill 54?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It did pass out of the Senate Tax Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Reddy, then Senator Schallenberger.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So for clarification, this Senate Bill 54 is for state tax only, and the sales tax exemptions in the Senate Bill 545 is for local and state. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you. I think I'm for Senate Bill 54, sounds like, but my fear, and maybe I shouldn't fear too much, is that now we're creating a bill that the governor may not want, and here we're bundling them up again, and so the bad takes down the good, or the good doesn't help the bad. $54 million fiscal note, although I don't have a problem cutting taxes. I think they ought to stand on their own, and I can't imagine that if the tax chairman went to the president that he wouldn't run that bill. So I'll oppose this, but I may lose.
Senator Tyson, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. That's interesting, the bill bundling comment, because I didn't get a chance to speak on the floor after that comment was made, as a result of time. But I looked up how many amendments that those people had made to tax bills. So they were guilty of the quote-unquote bundling. That's part of the process is, I think this is good legislation. I think it would help all businesses. We're going to pick and choose winners and losers. At least I'm going to try to give the other businesses that have been here, existing businesses, some help across the state. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
And my apologies, I believe we got sidetracked with clarification. We do not have a second. So we have a motion to add the contents, amend in the contents of 54. And do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Peck. Okay, now we are back on discussion. Any other questions? Senator Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So tell me if I'm right about this. In 545, we will forego sales tax that we might have gotten. In the amendment, we will lose sales tax money. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct. Yes, that's correct. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion fails. We are back on the bill on 545. What is the will of the committee? Senator Dole. No, it's, yeah, we already have that motion with Schallenberger and Dahl. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Schallenberger and Dahl. We're going back to the original motion. My apologies, it's been a long day already. So we already have the motion from Schallenberger, the second by Dahl. Discussion on the motion. Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will not be supporting the bill for these reasons, and I think it's a good project, so I don't want anybody to get that wrong. When I think of economic development, I think about how many employees, and this seems to be about 10 to 20, and I think about our tax base, so I don't see it increasing our tax base as much. And I'm also concerned a little bit about the electricity rates for our local residents. For those three reasons, I'll probably be opposing this. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Senator Dahl.
I think if you're wavering one way or another, it would be intelligent to take it to the floor and allow all our colleagues at least take a look at it and amend it how they want it. So I think we need to get it out of committee favorably.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? We'll do a show of hands. Chair is in doubt. All in favor, raise your hand, please. I'm seeing 4 opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-3. Committee, I do believe this will be our last meeting. Again, thank you all. Don't hold me to that, but I believe it is. Thank everyone for being flexible. Thanks again for lunch. We are adjourned.